Many people have problems with art and not with reality.
So why is art different?
It's pretty simple, right?
This is knowledge, this is thinking, this is thought.
Yeah, it does something strange with your head.
Welcome to the Undergang Armchair.
Bring it.
Welcome to the Undergang Armchair. My name is Ando. Hoo boy, we got a good show for you today. We have Ditte Knus Tønnesen on, and it's a fantastic talk which covers a lot of ground and is chock full of, good advice for you young artists. Really, it really is. But first, I would like to take a quick moment to say hello to the new listeners. If you are indeed new to the show, this is basically a program where I run my mouth endlessly about art, and then I have conversations with people who are much more qualified than I am to talk about art. We are actually starting to steer the show into a more inclusive direction. So please feel free to email us with questions, comments, guest requests, anything you like, really. This is also a good moment for one of my periodical requests to you. That is, if you like the show, to share about the program on social media. You could tell a like-minded friend or enemy about it, or please give us a rating on iTunes or wherever else you listen to the program. Thank you in advance for that. It's a huge help. There is a lot going on. Here are a few tidbits from former guests. Tonight is the opening of the show, which Mikkel Bo curated at Statens Museum for Kunst, the National Gallery of Art. He talked about his work curating this show on the episodes we had him on very recently. And now the opening is tonight from 5 till 7 at SMK. Also, Steve Stacy, a former guest of the show from a couple of years ago, has opened a workshop called the Stacy Archives, where you can make photogravures, that is real photogravures, and digital prints, and it's the bomb. Be sure to check that out. We'll have links for both of those things on our page for this episode. Now, I don't know how much introduction Ditte really needs. She seems to be everywhere. But for those of you who don't know her, she is the co-founder and co-runner of Green is Gold, which is an exhibition and curatorial platform here in Copenhagen, which does great work. And she's a really talented artist in her own right. She might be the most organized, together, and right-headed of any artist I have ever met. So it's really a special pleasure to bring this conversation to you guys. Take note, this is a woman who knows how to get shit done. There is so much good advice here for all of us. Please enjoy. One of the things I missed from when I went to art school was talking about artwork all the time.
A lot.
And that's what you did when you were in school. Yeah. I feel like that was half of what the reason of going to art school is just to be around artists all the time, to talk about work, to look at work, to fight about work, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I moved here and it was just like, boom, nothing.
Nothing.
So it's better, then you just have to make it yourself.
Yeah.
As you well know.
Yeah.
But too, you went to Glasgow. Mm-hmm. And so that puts you outside of the system like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm not a Danish Royal Art Academy kid.
Was that on purpose? Did you apply to the Art Academy?
I did, but I did apply to the one here in Copenhagen, but my first choice was Glasgow School of Art, because I knew at that point my main focus was on photography. Oh. And they had a special course for that, which they didn't at that point here in Copenhagen.
It's a really good school, isn't it?
The Glasgow School of Art?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was happy about it, very happy. Of course, I think every education institute has its own problems or things to fight about the system or as an organization. And of course, there was also some big problems going on when I was there. But what I really liked about it was that the community around the school is very international. So I think maybe almost 20% was like people from outside Scotland and the UK.
And there's a fair amount of Danes too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I've
actually.
spoken to several people on this show who've been there.
Yeah, I think because they have had or have that photography course for quite some years, it's been one of the first choices for Danish people to go there if they know that that's what they want to dig into.
That's right, because photography is still kind of shit on here.
Yeah,
it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there, but I think also it's because the art academies here. That's just like free art. There is no
there's no material basis.
Yeah, you don't really. I mean, I guess you do after some years when you to your master. To do your master, I guess you choose a professor who has a subject specific. But the facilities was just better in Glasgow. They had the largest color analog dark room in the whole Europe, I think, or something like that. It was like really crazy.
How fun is it to print color?
Huh?
How fun is it to print analog color?
Really fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so
it's
rad.
So good, yeah. I haven't done it since I left school, though.
You can do it here in Copenhagen, but
Yeah.
you have to rent it by the day out at the lab in Nanaskal.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And it's, it's not exactly cheap.
No.
But if you're good and you're fast, it's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper than getting someone else to print it.
Yeah, of course.
But
yeah.
you have to get in there, pack a lunch and just go.
Yeah.
But
I think also what I really liked about it is, and also why I still think it's important to at some point at least work analog, is that it really gives you another sense of what photography can. And also for me, it of course also gave me another understanding when I'm then working digital in Photoshop or something.
Well, Photoshop's based off of the darkroom, right?
Yeah.
There's those tools that you use and the concepts you use often are, derivatives from talking about photography in an analog sense.
Yeah.
For me, it's always, as a film photographer, it's not about which one's better.
No.
It's about which process works best for me. So it's just a material. It's just a way of working. It's a different way of working. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that there's more space for accidents. There's a wider range of equipment. I've got 20 different cameras of different formats and sizes and advantages and disadvantages, and that makes different work.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas if you have the same Canon that everybody has, I guess it's more freedom in the sense that you have the same playing field as everyone, so it's only your imagination that then works, but it's also a limitation in a way.
Yeah, I always like to compare it to your choice of knife when you work in a kitchen.
Right.
Like, every knife can cut, but they cut different. And what are you cutting in? You might not want to use your bread knife filleting a fish or something.
Oh my God, I am going to steal that forever now.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah.
It's like a knife.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And that's one of the problems is that it's one piece of equipment otherwise. And that in a way makes it more conceptual, right? Because if the image building machine, or whatever you want to say, the image capturing machine is a one trick pony, then all that the work can reflect, besides some technical know-how, is conceptual ideas.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what drives photography in a lot of cases. It's very conceptual, not very technical. And that's the other reason for me that I want to work with film, because it's modular, because you can build different pieces together to make a greater whole.
Yeah.
It's like Transformers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that's what attracted you to Glasgow.
Yes.
Was that program there?
Yes, it was the program, and then actually also that I guess I've always been attracted to traveling and seeing as much of the world as I could manage. So it was also an element that it was abroad.
Get the hell out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you grow up here in Copenhagen?
No, I grew up in Aarhus in Jutland. Yeah, in the middle of Aarhus. So when you grew up in the city center of Aarhus, the city becomes extremely small.
Yeah.
Because you're not really interested in the suburbs.
Yeah.
There's not much going
What, you don't like Riskov? You don't like Tilst?
No. I'm sure a lot of families love living there, but it's So it's very normal to then go abroad. Yeah. But also, my entry out of Aarhus was that there wasn't enough education for me on specific photography and art. Right. So first I moved to Copenhagen, and then from there to Glasgow. Well,
you present me with a good chance to test one of my theories. Mm-hmm. I lived in Aarhus for 6 months before I moved to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. But I did appreciate one thing about Aarhus, and I guess for people who are in Denmark, we should say it's the second largest city.
Yes.
But significantly smaller. It's about half the size of Copenhagen.
Yeah. It's like in Aarhus, you don't need to bike around, you walk around.
That's right. Downtown is quite small.
Yeah.
Although pretty.
Very pretty.
But I feel like there was more of a little brother, little sister mentality there, that in some way they try harder because they're not, that like Copenhagen's like New York, where they're like, oh, we're already in the center of the world. We don't have to try hard. We're already good because we're here.
Yeah.
Whereas Aarhus had to fight for status.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Yeah. Especially, back in the 80s and maybe a bit before as well, they had a really high cultural status because the music scene there was exploding.
Yeah, they've got a big punk rock scene there
and also just pop culture and stuff. Yeah. And they, in that sense, became very famous and known. Got good credit. Yeah. But then, I guess after that boom, it went down again. And I remember growing up and being a teenager, going through the different phases. It's like, or how can I explain it? So people are into fashion and whether it has to be secondhand or expensive brands, but they are like they want it a lot, but there are again not that many who really does it in their own way. Right. It's like everyone actually looks a little bit like the other. Mm-hmm. Maybe the back is then brown instead of black, But it was really important that you fit it in.
Right. That's something I think is a little bit, I'm going to get in trouble now, but I think it's a little bit kind of the truth about Denmark.
Yeah, maybe it's also like that here in Copenhagen, I guess.
It feels like that to me.
But it was even more, I felt that it was even more in Aarhus.
Everyone, it's probably true.
Today when I go back to Aarhus, and I'm not there that often, when I look around, everyone is so pretty. Like they're really working on the outer,
looking all made up and
trendy, down with it, or like just like shiny hair and
You hear that, Aarhus? Right, you and your shiny hair can stuff it.
Yeah.
It's true, though. Because I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, and they definitely it was kind of a similar relationship to Copenhagen and Aarhus, because it was the forgotten little brother.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's 8 million people there, so it's bigger than this entire country. Yeah. But they still had like that, we're not New York, we're not LA. Yeah. And that meant they had some, ferocious punk and metal music. They had some kind of a more experimental thing. But the problem they had is the classic brain drain. As soon as someone became known or good at what they did, they moved to New York or LA. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, shit, now we start over again.
Yeah, of course, I should also mention, to be fair, that I guess it's also that Aarhus is the size it is, so every subculture will be that much smaller, right? And not be that visible in the street picture.
Yeah, it is a disadvantage.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier going through your teenage phases.
Yeah.
Which one was the art phase? Or when did that happen? How did that happen?
My background is pretty creative already, since my mom is a painter and my dad a writer. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a lot of collectives.
Hippies.
Yes. But when did it really start?
I guess the question is, when did it become just a thing that one did for fun? And when did it become a, for lack of a better word, career goal? Or when did it become viable?
Well, I bought my first real camera, a Pentax camera, when I was 15, and started to explore. It was maybe most something I did when I was walking my dog. So it wasn't really in that. Maybe I didn't went that much out, or maybe I didn't really pushed it that much, but I started to experiment, and all the normal things you go through, like the macro interest, everything close up, and the long exposure and all that. But then I guess when I was in high school, I remember I felt very strange about having my art class in high school, because even though I felt as it was here I belong or there I belong, I didn't really feel that the surrounding could meet it properly, because it was still so, what can I say, on that level it was, and not really that free, and you had to follow like your exploring or process. No, it couldn't go that direction, for example. It had there was a result kind of.
So you could feel the limitations already.
Yeah.
And that was, I imagine, frustrating.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
So what, then you're thinking, where the hell can I go?
Yeah.
Where can I go to try out more stuff?
Yeah.
Did you go to high school, gymnasium?
Yeah, that was, then this was in gymnasium.
Okay.
And then after the second year, it was a 3-year course, or diploma thing, A-levels. But after the second year was done, I left.
Okay.
And then I moved to Copenhagen.
Fuck this shit.
Yeah, I was really like, but also I had some troubles with a evil teacher, and I didn't really.
It wasn't the right place.
It was not the right place for me.
Were your parents supportive?
They were supportive in the way that as long as I have made a choice on what I wanted to do, then I was able to leave. And also they said like, do you think you can just end the year and not leave in the middle of the year?
Yeah.
And then that was fine for me.
Yeah. That's where the pictures of you flipping burgers for the rest of your life come into their head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you then make the jump to Glasgow? What happened then?
How it was moving there? Or?
Well, like how long did it go? You moved to Copenhagen.
Yeah, I was in Copenhagen for quite some year. Oh, how long was it? 2 and a half years, I think. Mm-hmm.
At which point you were probably making art.
Looking back, well, I guess so. My first pieces, I was attending 4 different art schools here. Some are still existing.
Was that those like the private ones, like Vera School?
Yeah,
and ones like
stuff
that?
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, which was good.
Yeah.
Back then there was something called den fri ungdomsuddannelse. Like the free youth education where you could put
for the
together.
bad kids.
Yeah, it was actually for dropouts. Made for dropouts.
Totally. But it's really creative. It's the only place you can go if you want a creative education, which is kind of screwed up.
Yeah.
Before university, I feel like there should be some gymnasium for art here.
Yeah.
Why don't they have that?
Yeah, it's really weird.
Because that's like the only option. You can get a technical education or you can get the academic education.
Yeah.
What about a technical arts education? Why don't they have that? And then it's all these private schools have sprung up.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
But you probably got some creative time at that one, the free youth. Yeah,
I did, and that was also here. I met 2 different teachers of mine who had been students in Glasgow, and that was where the inspiration and the knowledge about the school came from.
As a young person wanting to get into art, you always need to find someone older than you who can just blow the doors open in that sense, and just be like, all right, kid, listen, like here's the deal.
Yeah. But it was really a good time back then because due to the possibilities of getting funding from this education system, you didn't have to pay a fee to go on these private schools.
Right,
so they would get the support from the government. So there was a lot of schools, and they were really good at it. And they were hiring professional artists so every week we had a new artist coming teaching us. So, I mean, we learned so much, and it was such an amazing time, meeting all these people, having their own idea on this is the truth, or this is what you should be focusing on now. And so, yeah.
It's too bad that disappeared.
It disappeared a lot, yeah.
Yeah, because they just stopped funding that. I know.
A new government, and then they took it away.
Yeah. But you went to Glasgow then?
Yeah.
So I assume that your teacher encouraged you to apply, helped you put together a package. Yeah. Was that back in the day when you had to send slides?
Yes, I also had slides. Yeah, but you send it a printed portfolio as well.
Oh, real physical artworks.
Yeah. Or documenting of it, yeah.
Those days are over.
They are over, yeah. Completely.
But all in all, Glasgow was good.
Glasgow was good. And
did you immediately move back to Copenhagen afterwards?
No, I hang around for a bit.
Okay.
But then it was also so I finished in 2008, where the financial problems were huge.
Uh-huh.
And there was slightly a depression going on at the time in Glasgow. Like a lot of shops closed, and it was hard getting jobs, and still raining every day.
Never stops.
And then leaving art school, where you every day are among your best friends,
right?
And a lot of things is going on. And since the international community is so big, a lot of people is moving away. And so the transforming from being a big group to just being you in Glasgow.
Dirt poor, no option for making artwork.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, that's a hard landing, that leaving school.
Yeah,
and in fact, it shook me so badly that I didn't really make artwork for 3 or 4 years afterwards. Just trying to figure out, oh God, how am I going to be an adult in this world?
Yeah.
How am I going to pay for rent and survive and stuff?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the problems with art schools. It's probably not very good at preparing people for the world.
So many things. I mean, I think we had maybe one day of learning to do presentations or just being told about that. Oh yeah, there's also something about contacting or showing yourself that it's maybe a good idea to have a web page or something like that. But, nothing else. The whole thing about running a business, as it also is being an artist, there wasn't much talk about that at all.
I think a lot of people don't make that jump.
No.
If you look at what percentage of art graduates from art school become professional, the numbers are grim, and we know that. We're often told that's because not very many people are good enough artists, right? That's what the picture is that 1 out of 50 of you will be a good enough artist, but that's not just the reality of it. It's a reality of managing yourself as a business and as a brand even and as and it sucks to talk about that, because that's the whole picture the whole time has been just based off of art and creativity and learning how to develop ideas and processes, and then it seems dirty to talk about the business, but that's just the way it is. It
is just the way it is, and I think one thing is that it might seem dirty, but it also, for at least some periods, it's connected to a feeling which is not that nice, because you are not using your time as you would like to.
That's right.
You rather wanted to be in the studio experimenting and making tests or stuff which didn't get into anything, just have the freedom to fool around and really be creative and dare to not think of a result or the audience or whatever, but instead you're sitting doing your taxes or doing another application.
So many applications.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean, is that that is the reality of it. You have to learn how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you're not going to be able to find any time. You're not going to be able to afford a studio. You're not going to...
Yeah. And it's really cruel. I also know from, the other side, running Green is Gold, our exhibition space, whenever we receive application or a portfolio, if you can't straight away actually get a feeling of the art piece or get the right information you want, material, size, year, whatever, or not whatever that, then you don't have the patience.
Right.
You don't have the
time.
You don't have the time. Then it's just like, this is not on the level you anyway want to do.
Well, it's a sign of an immature artist.
Yes.
In a weird way. Even though it has nothing to do with their work.
Yeah.
It has to do with the fact that they haven't been taught or they haven't had the chance to learn how to write applications.
Exactly.
You have to write 20 or 30 shit applications before you even learn how to formulate it.
Exactly.
And that, again, even if the artwork's good, you're like, is this person worth working with? Because clearly they're inexperienced.
Yeah. And especially then in a situation where you do it because you really want to support something and it's more a charity than a paid job,
right.
Then you do want to also work with someone where you know that you have a good chance on really pushing it and giving an opportunity. And then you probably also have an idea on what level you would like to work with this. So it can't be a beginner all the time, for example.
Right.
When we started Green School, we were maybe also doing more project-based shows where the result was not important, but that it was an invitation to get into the process.
Right. That's always tough.
Yeah.
That harkens back to art school when you called your friends over and you're like, I have this crazy idea and I need everyone to come over. We'll get a case of beer and we're going to do this thing,
Yeah.
And, it's always a lot of fun. It's always very interesting, but the result is
very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, there's just no, it'll always remain experimental.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Even though it seems like now I'm jumping ahead, but now it seems like there is a lot of process-based work around, especially in the young art spaces. But I just want to quickly fill the gap there. You were in Glasgow, it was raining, you were poor, your friends moved away.
Yeah.
And you thought, well...
Yeah.
Back to Copenhagen?
Then first I did an artist in residence in the north of Germany on the countryside. It was this concept where a group of hotels in the kind of beach resort area of Germany had gone together. So they hosted an artist living at the hotel with everything covered.
Nice.
So, I think I gained 5 kilos on those 2 months.
Those sausages and sauerkraut.
Yeah, it was, 3-course dinner every day and huge morning buffet. And, I slightly moved my way through the wine cart. But that was weird. I mean, also since it was both good and not nice experience. I mean, the not so happy part was that I don't speak German. And I thought maybe that in this area there would be a few more speaking English, but nope. So I was very lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long was it?
2 months.
Yeah, it's a fair amount of time to
and
not
it was
be able
winter.
to communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a project in Prague once with the school I was with at the Art Institute, and it was the same thing. We had to collaborate with these Czech art students.
Yeah.
But no one fucking spoke English.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, all right, guys, well, that looks interesting what you're doing. I guess we'll go do what we're doing,
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't really translate so well. But after that, was it back to Copenhagen?
Then I moved back to Copenhagen, yeah.
And what were you thinking at that point? In your head, were you thinking, okay, time to find a gallery? Time to find a studio? What's...
I was thinking, oh my God, people are so rich here. I was like, oh, look at the double glazed window, central heating, like a mixed water battery and a bathroom. I was really like, oh wow, everyone have an expensive smartphone.
It's very unromantic, right?
Yeah, but I was really shocked about it. And also how much people use the energy on it. That's like, oh my God, they had to have blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. People use a lot of money on that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, what was I thinking? At this time, I started collaborating with a Norwegian girl who I had been studying with, Silja Leifdotter. And we were working on, she was living in Berlin at this time, so we were traveling back and forward to collaborate on a project. So I was focusing on that and then finding a job to earn some money so I can pay the rent.
Was it possible, like, when you landed, were you thinking, I just have to get going and I'll be able to work as an artist in a gallery system? Or were you thinking, I have to make something for myself? You know, I have to build a network. I have to start an exhibition space. I have to do... Did you have any expectations?
I don't really remember. I mean, I knew of course at that time that it wasn't just so that you could walk in and then come back and then have a gallery representing you. And coming back, I remember that I didn't really knew any artists living here in Copenhagen, or I had never been to the art academy here or even visiting.
Network.
So no network like that. So it was a lot about getting back also with your old friends, which were not in the art business, and doing life, or I mean just live life, live life. And then I think I was just focused on finding a balance where I could actually survive, but also have time to do art. So I remember I was focusing on that I needed to have a studio space, and that was a good thing to get that, and that also opened up to a community because I shared a space with some other artists, and
I think that's probably one of the first things one should probably do.
Yeah.
As much as an economic smack to the face that is.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young, you don't have a well-paying job, you know, you maybe can't afford it.
Yeah.
But it's just, it creates some sort of something, like you say. And also, you can invite people on a studio visit.
Yeah.
People underestimate studio visits.
Yeah.
You know, those are actually pretty powerful tools for inviting people into your universe.
Yes.
And it's so much more noble and less humiliating than going and trying to wave your art out in the world.
Yeah.
You know, because like I was talking about earlier, if you go to a gallery and wave your picture in their face, there is a 0% chance they're going to be interested.
Yeah.
Also, just because it's so humiliating, that position.
Yeah.
You know? So I think you're right, that should be a priority. If someone's wondering what the next step is, when you're done with school or you're ready to start trying to start a practice.
Yeah. Also, I think because as I see it at the moment, so many gallerists or people in working with setting up exhibitions, curators and stuff, they love when they have the feeling of that they have discovered something like an artist or an art piece. So inviting them to do a studio visit where they can have the feeling that they've seen the work before it was 100% finished.
That's right.
So they're in it,
they're developing.
They know
artist.
the process.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe they said something which could have, made artists change a little or whatever. I mean, that they have this feeling and being together in the process, or the insider feeling.
That's a secret weapon right there.
I think so. Yeah, a lot.
Is that what happened? I mean, how did you go from starting this studio to building up this incredible network that you have?
Well, then what happened was that I first had a Studio One space together with Signe Vad, who has just closed
another art space,
space here in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
After 2 beautiful years, and that was nice to be with her in her shared studio with 2 or 3 others at that time. And then
she's very active too.
She's very active, yeah. And then I got the possibility to move into Hyskenstræde, where I again met Amalie, who had also been stuttering in Glasgow.
This is a studio in town?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we were there in Hyskenstræde, where Green Gold then would open. And first we shared the space with 3 others, and when they moved out, we were like, we had the discussion already, because in this time there was maybe 2 or 3 other spaces in town, maybe not even, like artist-run spaces, exhibitions, platforms. And we've had the discussion already, because it was hard to get to show. And also there was a certain aesthetic fashion going on, kind of, on the commercial galleries at least.
Yeah.
It would be painting in bright colors everywhere, which we were not happy about. Or
what is this, 2011?
No, it's like
9-10.
9-10. Yeah. And then we were like, okay, let's do it. And then the next day we made the homepage.
Damn.
Did it. And I always say, like, we opened Green is Gold without a business plan. And
then you learned.
Yeah.
And what was your goal? Was your goal to show work by your friends? Was your goal to develop some sort of scene? Was your goal to...
Our goal was to expand the art scene here in Denmark by showing work and introducing artists to the Danish art scene, which might not have been shown in that setting or at that time.
How do you think it's going?
Good. Yeah. I think we've done a lot of exciting projects.
You guys are definitely present. You
Yeah.
know, like people, you're not just some hidden little vanity project.
No.
You guys are present on the art scene whenever you guys have openings. It's published. People know about it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely taken off in that sense.
Yeah. But I think also, one thing which has been quite stunning for us to experience is that most of the time we have, or I will say all of the time, we have just been focusing on doing the work, setting up the exhibitions, being there.
Painting the walls.
But not so much about the rest. And then I remember the first time where I was talking with someone here in Copenhagen, which I didn't know. The first time I said, I have this place called Green is Gold, and that the other person would know about it. That's
a big day. That's a big day.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's you?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that it just happened that we became known about.
Right.
It wasn't, yeah.
Do you have any sort of issue or problem with the fact that it might be taking away time from you to make art?
I have if it's not being appreciated.
You hear that, kids?
Yeah.
Right. If your hard work is seen as whatever.
Yeah, but that's also why it's important it is important, the artist you work with, that you know that they're serious about it.
Yeah.
That is not just...
Right, that's what that selection process is for.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. How does it apply, running this show? How does it apply to your own work? Does it have any relationship to it?
I know that running Green is Gold have made me very much focused on and also inspired in the whole installating process, like that a piece is just half of what it is almost until it's being installed.
That's right.
And also that actually a lot of artists doesn't think about it. And that is sometimes really surprising you when you meet that.
Right. Oh, you just hang it on the wall.
Yeah. Or that, that suddenly they haven't thought, it should just lay on something, like a little table. Don't you have any?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but what kind of little table?
Right.
Or,
Right.
So that's always interesting. And I remember we had some shows after each other where for one of them, some kind of plinth was built in plywood, I think. And then the next show is like, oh, do you have anything? And then I can use, and then, okay, you can use this. And then for the third show, we had to kind of say, no, you can't use this. No more plywood. You have to get something yourself,
Yeah.
It's because it became a uniform.
Yeah.
We didn't want it to be a room with furnitures in it
Right.
to display on.
Right. There has to be a specific presentational idea.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, that's great. We'll just put it on that.
Yeah. Even if it's just the same height or size of a white plinth.
Yeah.
It will be like, oh, is that a furniture in this room or what?
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the things I have often tried to tell young people who are interested in working with art.
Yeah.
You really should do whatever you can to get behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Whether it's working at a gallery or working for an artist or running your own space or running a publishing house, although less so that, or making frames or whatever you can do, work in a museum, get close to it because you'll see what's behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And there's a lot behind the curtain.
Yeah.
There's probably more behind the curtain than there is in front.
Yeah.
And that curtain produces some fantastic artworks, but it sure as shit isn't magic.
No.
And so you should get behind there. And you're going to learn a lot about how the whole thing works. And it's going to inform your own work and the way you imagine your works, making the jump from your brain to wherever it's going to go.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys did. You just did it yourselves.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you guys were ahead of the curve in that now there's so many independent art spaces in Copenhagen now?
Not really. I more see it as that there was a break, or as due to that there also was a financial crisis here in Denmark. But then we were just opening in that break.
Right. Well, there has been a move away from the gallery system as well.
Yeah.
Which is great because they both should be there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can do something which the one can do something the other can't.
Right.
I mean, also, for example, we also talk a lot about with working with our artists is, or the artists we work with, is that take this chance to do something here which you might not be able to do somewhere else. Like, challenge yourself.
Right.
It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have that same. I mean, how can I describe it more? I mean,
it's okay to push the boundaries beyond what you might think is commercially viable.
Yeah, and the result doesn't, in a normal sense, have to be a success.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Right.
If you can understand.
Right. You can use it as a learning process.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like when you were in art school. You can make something to see if it works.
Exactly.
Whereas you have less freedom if you're working in a financially constrained for-profit gallery system. Yeah. There is no money, there is no success in some sense or another without some sort of sale.
Yeah, and maybe also to change your practice, because what also often can happen is that you become successful with a style or a theme, and then suddenly the gallerist or the museum, that's what they want, because that's what they see you as.
Yeah.
And then at sometimes you might not find it that interesting any longer yourself, to do that sort of art.
Yeah.
And then come and work with us, because we are a place where you can try out something new, right?
But write a good application.
Yeah, well.
But what was it?
It's not the words. It's
Yeah, I do. I'm being tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
But as someone who has worked on both sides of the spectrum,
yeah.
What is it like for you when you start working with a gallery? You had a show was it March of this year?
Yes.
a solo show at a nice space. What was that like? How was that different for you? The considerations you had to take into account under that different context?
It was different, indeed. I didn't have the same feeling of that I could do what I wanted to 100%.
Yeah.
Not that there would be maybe it was more a sense of like in between words that there was a restriction.
Right. I think Sophus is fairly open, actually.
He is very open, and it was a really good experience.
Yeah.
But it was more like it was so result
oriented. Yeah.
Yeah, oriented.
Yeah. Was that uncomfortable?
It indeed gave a pressure.
Yeah.
On me.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to not have that pressure when creating, and which you shouldn't have, because then it stresses you out. So in that sense, it was something to really, okay, what am I feeling? Okay, hello, feeling, and goodbye,
Right.
Yeah, to try and come back all the time to the free process of creating.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was a success, the show?
Yes, very much.
That's good. I mean, because like we were kind of talking about earlier, hopefully you learn something each time.
Yeah.
And hopefully you don't go broke in the meantime.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
But speaking of going broke, can you tell me, I don't want to get too personal about it, but like, can you tell me a little bit about the financial realities of running an art space? What it means to have to keep that ship afloat?
Yeah. We always say or try not to use real money. And
exactly. That's actually very, very poignant.
Don't use real money.
Don't use real money. Use fake money.
Yeah. No, and one old colleague of mine, she learned me the expression to do stuff in-house. So whatever you can do yourself, do that. Yeah. And of course you have to realize if it takes you too long time to learn to do something you can't do, then it might be better to use real money on that job.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, so that means, because it's much cheaper not to pay yourself.
Right.
And do the job yourself.
Except for with time.
Yeah. So you also, I mean, one thing I also have to say about this project, that we basically did it because we wanted to. That was all the time our energy. We want to do this, so we do it. There was never, I mean, if we got some support, then we were of course happy.
Right.
Because that meant that we didn't have to use our own money on it. But that's how it has been run all the time. So, maybe a few of the projects. No, not even. I mean, we have used our own money on all the projects, more or less. I mean, maybe not huge amount, but still. And then I think it's also very important to have an open dialogue with the artist about what they expect, what kind of service they expect, because there is a huge element of service involved in running a space. And here it's very important that, of course, that is kind of not too heavy on us, because else you are drained of energy.
Right.
And that's where, so the artist has to understand that this is run on goodwill. And as soon as they understand that, most of the time, everything just runs smoothly.
Right.
Because then and this is also the situation where they can say, okay, maybe I'm past that point. Because fair enough, at some point in your career, you should be past that point and really do want a fee for doing an exhibition as an artist.
Right.
But other, or even the same, on that point in the career, they want to do it because they see something good coming out of it. So, and maybe that is the more freedom you have here. You can control more.
Right. It's more open in that sense.
Yeah. We have always just been guiding. I mean, never said no. That's not.
But the artist obviously has to find financing for the production of their own works.
Yeah. So, yeah. And a lot of, of course, we have always helped all we could with doing the application. Yeah. And always, what can you say? We have always prioritized what posts in the budget should the real money be used on.
Right.
And here, for example, when it comes to salary, the artist is always first. And me and Amalie, the people running the space, will be in the bottom. So that's of course, in some people's eyes, not the way they want to do it. And that's fair. Choose your own business plan, or what can you say, strategy. But for us, it was very important that it should be right. When we opened the space, our dream was that we could pay an exhibition fee.
True to your own vision, basically.
Yeah, to the artists.
Yeah.
But in reality, how much that had happened is not much.
Right.
No.
Well, the thing about writing applications and getting funding is that you don't have a secure situation. You don't know what you have in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to see from people when they apply?
That's a good question. So we don't have a special concept on what we're showing. For example, if it comes to media, it can be sculpture, sound, photography, whatever. But what I want to see is something which makes me excited.
Do you see that as like... Well, for example, when I see a lot of these artist-driven spaces, it seems like there's a constant attempt to break down the traditional exhibition. There's very little of pictures on paper in frames and just that frames hanging in a row around a room.
Yeah.
It seems like there's more of an interest to use the floor, the ceiling, different heights, break things out of the picture plane, three-dimensional, to kind of make the space a little more dynamic.
Yeah.
In kind of intact with the usual criticisms of the white cube.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that, or is that more intuitive?
Well, my thought is that the space in Hyskenstræde was not a white cube, really, because it had so many architectural details from had been an old flat. So although it was painted white, there was many... details like wooden panels, or the floor was quite expressive as well, being very old and of wood as well.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of windows in the room and a door. So if you wanted to hang a traditional exhibition there, you could maybe fit 1, 2, 3 works.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
No. So in that sense, it just felt more right to work with a hanging or installing, which also could use the floor, for example. But again, it wasn't something it was more intuitive, as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because whenever we then made a deal with an artist of that he or she should do an exhibition, then everything was made to show the art in the best way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the room, of course.
Right.
Show this room in the best way.
This is an architectural magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that obviously some consideration should be taken for the physical space that you're working in.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be like, this show can hang anywhere.
Yeah.
No. It should be probably more of a dialogue between space and work.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember a period where we were specific in interest when receiving applications that they had thought about how they wanted to work with our space. Mm-hmm. Like, because it was different than other spaces, not being a straight white cube.
Yeah.
But then after a period, I didn't find that so important any longer to see that in the application, because it was more important maybe to get into a dialogue, or that the project wasn't anyways completely done. And it didn't necessarily have to be brand new work, but it could be a combination or a finishing up of a project, or as I also like to see it, like to have an exhibition is kind of like you pausing your process instead of thinking that, oh, now this piece is done, it's finished. Then it can be a version of it instead.
Right, it's a picture of that moment.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So if someone did want to apply, it seems like one of the best things they could do is familiarize themselves with what you guys have shown in the past.
Yeah, of course.
To kind of see some sort of line which runs through it.
Yeah, that's true.
Or at least the last 6 months or a year or whatever.
Yeah, of course, that's always good. Also, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have a show looking as a show you've already had.
True story. But
so
it would
in that
also
sense, you shouldn't really copy something we have had already.
No, but you can hopefully see a line, and then where the line ends, what's the next step?
Yeah.
What would be the logical
exactly.
progression?
That's a very good idea. Yeah.
What do you see for the future of the space? Is it going on forever?
No, well, the way I'm living right now is like a day at the time, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know the future. But I do see, first of all, we're moving out of Jyskenstræde.
Oh.
Because now we've been in that space for 4 years, almost. And for us to keep up the energy, we figured out that it was important to see some new walls now. Because it's very hard for us to imagine other pieces doing a new thing there. And also, due to the size of the space, we've been focused most on solo presentations, and now we are also interested now we're also interested in having the possibilities to work more with group exhibitions. So I see Green School becoming more a curatorial platform in that sense, and our first chapter will be a nomadic space. But also because we've done already a few projects abroad, which we which we gained other things or elements from.
Right.
Also traveling with artists and meeting up with them and stuff. And
you guys are becoming a curatorial platform in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. But also because we think that it's exciting to then find spaces and then curating from the space, or find the artist and then finding the space to the artwork.
Aren't you afraid that this is going to take up too much from your personal practice?
I don't think I worry about that, really.
It doesn't feel like you're thinking, fuck, I could be in the studio right now.
No. Then it's because something is wrong.
Because it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Then you should stop.
Yeah.
Because that's a problem. And of course, we've also felt tiny bits of that now and then. Yeah. But that's because you are doing too much service.
That's because it's 3 a.m. and you're doing something.
That's because then you have made a wrong deal.
Right.
So you're becoming a service agent instead of a partner in the process.
Right. Well, I think you have a very, very healthy relationship to art. Because as much as you're aware of the business side of it and the reality of it, it seems like you also have a very clear sense that art isn't necessarily a job, it's a lifestyle. And that's such a horrible word. But, it's something, it's a use of your time.
Yeah.
You're alive here and now. What do you want to do with your time?
Yeah.
And so therefore, as a total experience, why not also curate and discuss and be part of, I mentioned earlier I missed art school because of that network. Well, you can just make that through all sorts of platforms.
Yeah.
And like you say, if it's not fun anymore, then fuck it, do something else that's fun.
Yeah. It's really that easy,
Although it does take hard work. Don't forget the 3 in the morning painting and,
Especially when you work with artists on different time scales or zones, then you have to answer the phone, right?
But how do you keep the excitement up?
Well, I don't think it's that different from in generally being aware of keeping an energy up. So I think you have to be aware of expectations. Your own, your partners, the people you work with, and that you are on the same level, that you are not going around with a hidden dream of something you want to do, but are not doing, because then that will for sure eat some of your daily energy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So to really be honest to yourself as well,
Yeah, I have a day job and I can feel that eats some of my energy because I don't want to be there.
No, yeah.
I want to be out in the world making podcasts, making art, making pictures, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And you're right. Because of the fact that isn't intact with my goals, it's an energy killer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how does one make that a reality in terms of financial? Is that also just hard work?
Yeah. Well, so when we work with projects in Green is Gold, for example, we always have a plan A and a plan B. And the plan A for the show is like how we really want it to be, if money was not a problem at all. So here you can get everything you want. You can transport whatever size across the world, and you can fly in all the people you would need, and, money is not a problem at all. And that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
And then when reality hits, then you start to change to plan B, which is important to that one exists as well.
Right.
And plan B is also a reality check in relation to, so how much real money or real time do we actually have to see this exhibition through?
Like, how are we going to make this work?
Yeah. How much energy, time, and money can the artist put in it, and how much can we? And it's real, and that's again something really important to know and to be honest about.
Do you have a day job?
Not at the moment. No.
You did it.
I don't know. I feel extremely poor.
It is, of course, a matter of priorities. It always is.
Yeah.
It always is.
Always buy the cheap coffee. Yeah, well.
Well, the thing is, you have to not get tired of it.
Yeah.
And somehow you have to manage to keep, being poor is one thing, but still being excited about what you're doing is the other.
Yeah.
Right. And so it depends on what your priority is. I think for some people, financial stability is happiness.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they want to do stuff with their lives, and money is just a side effect of living in the world we live in.
Yeah.
And just if you manage to do the things you want to as much as possible, then, that'll work.
Yeah.
Do you have any personal goals? We've talked a lot about Green is Gold, but what about your work in the next 5 years? Where are we going? Do you see a commercial future for yourself as an artist?
Yeah, if we can do it my way, of course.
Yeah. If we can do it my way, of course. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Of course.
That makes perfect sense.
I hope, of course, that I can continue working with the art projects I love, and that's my goal. Yeah. But I don't have like a plan.
One day at a time,
I hope for
like
the best.
Said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's where we have to give it up for Denmark. Mm-hmm. There is a certain minimum safety net here.
Yeah.
Which makes it more viable to be unsure of your future.
Yeah. I'm not on that, though, because I have a business.
Yeah, me too. But
if I close
you can
the business,
get health care.
Yeah.
You can get,
if I get to hospital or something.
Yeah. You're not going to end up on the street.
No.
Even if you don't have the luxury insurance that they have against job loss, you're not going to end up homeless.
No.
You have to want to almost.
I have way too much family and friends to end up homeless. Indeed.
Exactly. And so that gives us some freedom to try shit out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I also think it's important not to be, embarrassed to, in periods, take a daytime job. Or to just say, okay, now I really need to earn some money, and then I will focus on that the next 3 months or half a year.
Right.
I think that's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about.
Right.
Do it.
Do it because it's what needs to be done.
Yeah. And see it as a a fundamental thing to then get back to your art.
Right. Well, I mean, there's also periods in which you shouldn't make art, right? I mean,
where you have to think instead, or get inspired, or live the life.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for young folks who are coming from Aarhus or coming from any Aarhus in the world, trying to get out there and make it happen?
I'm sure I have, but maybe it's maybe it will be more individually.
Well, I feel like what you've done is a good example. So in a way, you have given advice.
Yeah. Meet people.
Meet people. Talk to people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to art school.
No.
That's one of the things. Art school creates a very dynamic world to live in for a period of time.
Yeah.
That is not the real world.
That is not the real world at all.
But it can give you a taste of what it's like to be part of a dynamic art-based situation in the real world. And but you can build it yourself.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, many people, they feel it's hard. It can even be a hard life being at art school. But actually the hard life is afterwards, right? So you have to be aware of that as well. I mean, or not you have to be aware of it. Of course, you have to be where you are at the moment. But
you're going to find out.
You will find out, yeah. Yeah, but of course there is a lot of ways into creating the situation you want to be in. Or make art.
Right. I think what I've gotten out of our conversation is that it's important to do the least amount of stuff that drains your energy.
Yeah.
You have to do what it takes to survive, but you also have to sustain that energy because it can disappear, and you have to nurture that energy and take care of your excitement about art.
Exactly.
Your naivete.
Exactly.
Really.
Like, you shouldn't really be living an unhappy life.
Right. Because what's the point anymore?
Yeah. What's then the point?
Yeah. Why make art if it's making you miserable?
Yeah. But of course you do also realize, or I did, or am realizing that that there is so much you don't need, like material-wise, for example.
Right. You can make a lot with a little.
Yes.
It's just the energy that counts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me what art is for?
What art is for? Art is for understanding the world and life, and a room where we can discuss about being without being what can you say, almost like arrested. It's a more free room where we can you can say something without being a person saying it, because it's like there is an in between. That's the work.
Interesting. It's an intermediary between you and life.
Yeah.
Or you and your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'll say. Of course, it's like. Of course, it always depends on what the artist claim.
Right.
Yeah. So this is not a pipe, right? Yeah.
High five to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. All right, that was Ditte. Doesn't that just make you want to get going? It is so motivating to hear people talk about their work that way, what they do, their excitement about art. Man, it just makes me so pumped, There's so much work to be done out there. Well, one thing at a time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Undergang Armchair. Intro and outro music is kindly provided by Johnny Ripper, and today's interstitial music was provided by Spencer Henslow. You can find links to their music and tons of other conversations with great people on our curatorial platform of a website, undergang.net. Seriously, that's where you'll find links to our Twitter account, SoundCloud, and even The Face. This show is produced in part with the kind support of the Danish Arts Council. Thank you so much for joining us.